welcome to the September meeting of the Retired Loggers Club. Today we're going to tour through the Blue Ox Mill in Eureka on X Street. There's a lot of worthwhile things to see here, and we are thankful to Eric and Lena to let us tour the area today.
Let's go in. Following you, Jim.
And here's a sign, the Blue Ox.
How many years this building's been here?
Must have been here a long time. I don't know. We'll find out.
Here we are at the foot of X Street. Watch out for the railroad train.
And this is an old friend of mine. I don't know how, is this axe sharp?
Well, I was going to try it.
Hello, Ben.
Hello, how are you?
So you suspect this is Paul Bunyan or somebody, one of his smaller cousins?
His younger brother.
No.
Okay.
His little brother.
It just calls it the Mighty Logger.
Yeah, mighty love.
I guess we could go in. We're the first ones.
There aren't very many loggers who should.
Hi, Eric.
Hi, you guys.
This is Eric Hollenbeck. Good to see you.
Jim. Hi.
Welcome to Blue Ox.
Hi, Eric. How are you?
Welcome. Thanks for letting us come. Oh, I'm glad you're here.
Where are we now?
This is the office. Is as much of a mess as it is.
Very good to see you. Good to see you.
Okay. So next year what we plan on doing is having the tour set up so that there are actual activities, 2-hour and 4-hour activity blocks that the people can do. So say a tour bus, what we're trying to do is figure out a way to keep the tour buses in Eureka overnight. We have, or for the day rather, we have 700 tour buses coming through Eureka every year, full of people, and they come in at 6 o'clock at night and they leave at 6 o'clock the next morning. They don't stop. And the reason they don't stop is because we don't give them a day's worth of activities to do for their people. You can't have the people tour Old Town for a day or ride the Matticat for a day, or they need to do something. So we're going to have one-day classes on silkscreen making, not silkscreen, wallpaper making and stencil making. It's a 2-hour class. There's going to be a 2-hour class on use of a hand plane and how to make molding with an ordinary hand plane, and everybody who participates will make up a frame, a picture frame that they made themselves that they'll take with them. There's going to be a 4-hour class on traditional pottery making that the people that take the class will then make the pottery, and when we fire we'll send them the pottery. There's going to be a basket weaving class, and they will make the beginning of a basket, and then they can take that with them and then complete the basket on their own. There's going to be a bent wood furniture class where where you make furniture out of willow boughs. Say that 10 times. And they'll make up a small child's chair, but that same technology, once they've got it mastered, goes for a full king-size bed. I mean, it's the same exact technology. So there's 3 pages of classes that we're gonna have.
Sounds like a natural for Elder Hostel too.
Yeah.
And the Senior Ventures.
Yes. Yeah. And the bed and breakfasts, we're getting together with them, and they could market a package, an out-of-the-area package, where the people would come up here, stay at their B&B, come here for different classes, because there won't always be the same classes. The classes are going to rotate. There's going to be a glass blowing class. There's going to be a ceramics class. There's going to be a plaster class. There's a 2-week class in iron foundry. foundering iron parts, making your own iron parts, and there's a 2-week class in blacksmithing. There's a anyway, it goes on and on and on.
Your railroad run up there?
The railroad does run, and I had a wonderful forest built for them right over here. And if you can pan in on that, I went home one night and came back the next day and they'd logged it all.
Oh, they logged the forest on you. That's not very nice, huh?
You can't trust them, I tell you. This is Viviana, my wife. She'll be going with you on part of the tour.
Hello there.
Hi.
Glad to see everybody.
He's got the mic, so you got to talk near his throat.
Hello, everybody.
That should be fun. Okay.
So we'll go on in and get started. I can be with you on part of the trip, and then Viviana will take you on the rest of it. And someplace here I have a drink. I have worked right on through. Thanks. I've worked.
We're following you.
Okay, come on through.
You got a short leash there.
Oh, I better. Okay. Here I am.
Okay.
What's the step?
Okay, thank you.
So what we are is a Victorian job shop. That means that we are or have been for 21 years, a millwork firm that makes all the fancy Victorian architectural millwork, but we don't make a product line. Everything that we make is made to order. Those columns behind Viviana over there, people asked us to make those specific size columns in specific shapes, or they asked me to design a column up for them, which we do also. So everything that we make, we are asked to make. It's all custom, in other words. We're the last shop like us left in the United States that has the ability to go from the log clear on through to the finished product. Used to be that every job shop in the country had this ability, and now we're the last ones. We're the only other one that I know of like us is in New Brunswick, Canada, and they closed about 10 years ago, and the Canadian government took it over and restored it, and it's now a museum. It's just a static museum. They don't actually run. I think one day a year they start it up and do things. So this one is an actual working shop. We do everything. There's only one rule at the shop. I tell everybody from yay to yay. You can touch anything out of wood in the place. If you break anything out of wood, that's fine. It ain't no big jelly bean. You can't touch anything out of steel. All of the machines are live. Everything can be activated, and a lot of the switches don't look like switches. So as long as we do that one, observe that one rule, then everything goes smooth. The tooling that we'll see today ranges from the bandsaw over there. That's a 1948 Moke 36-inch bandsaw. That's the newest piece of equipment that we have. It goes from there back to 1852. And everything is online and functional except for the 1903 American planer over there. And I've only had it a year, so you can't rush into getting these things going. So another little while and it'll be going. And one of the molding machines, one of the new molding machines outside isn't online. The tool there is a 1913 Crescent Universal Woodworker. That was the forerunner to the Shopsmith. It was a multi-purpose tool all in one. They had originally driven off of an overhead line shaft. They had a 12-inch table saw, 8-inch joiner, a horizontal boring bar, and you could have gotten that same machine with a 36-inch bandsaw attachment on it, although that one didn't come with it. This is the lathe room here. The machine back against the wall here is an 1890 Pittsburgh column lathe. It'll turn columns to 17 feet long, and I have turned 17-foot columns for Alaska, Skagway, Alaska, for the National Park Service up in Skagway, Alaska. They needed some 17-foot columns to restore the bar. We took it out in trade instead. No.
Looks like you did.
Yeah. My wild-eyed friend here is working on a 1870 pattern maker's lathe. This came out of Gerlinger Iron Works Company up in Medford, Oregon. This was the lathe that they used to make the wooden parts to then make the iron castings from, and the patterns to make the iron castings from. And it happens that my forklift is a 1948 Gerlinger forklift, so I unloaded this lathe with the same machine that it made. I thought there was a certain amount of poetic justice in that. My friend is rather slow, but very meticulous. See that? When that spot is finished, it's going to be good, I tell you.
So how do they run? Is this electric?
Yes, you notice that there's no duplicators in this room anywhere. Everything is done by eye. It's all the skill of the craftsman to make the component parts the same. And I have gotten pretty good, and this is one of the things in the school that we're starting up now that we're going to teach the young people, is how to make architectural turnings without using calipers and without using any measuring device other than a story stick. That's how close I can make these, and I make these in 5 minutes apiece, start to finish. And it takes me about 5 to do that. You can see this is a story stick with the marks on it here, and they tell me where to do my work once I get it round. I did 75 of these that went to San Francisco. These right here, I've done about 500 of these, and I do these in 5 minutes apiece, start to finish. And then, yeah, these are both balusters, yeah. And these rosettes I do in 58 seconds when I'm cooking. It takes about 5 of an item for the hands to pick up a memory. And once the hands have got that memory, then I don't measure anymore at all. And then I just trust the hands and the eye, and we just fly. What's your display back there? I save all of the old patterns that I can from buildings that are being torn down and or parts that are sent to me. You know, some of those come from other places that are sent to us to duplicate, and then I keep the originals and keep them for patterns, because once these patterns are gone, they're gone forever. These were not production shops. These were all job shops that made these, and they were all men and women that were experimenting all the time, so that every one of these patterns was a one-off experimentation for that particular house, so that once that house burns up or gets torn down or whatever else would happen to a house to make it go away, the patterns are gone forever. They're lost because they are not anywhere archived. So we keep all of the patterns. I'll show you on the wall in the back the corbel patterns that we have. These are the planters that we made for the White House. You can see that the staves are curved. I made my own little tongue and groove knives. The staves are tapered. The bottom is let into the barrel. It's not added on. It goes in a dado all the way around. And then in the blacksmith shop, we forge welded our own bands out of 1/8-inch thick steel wire so that the bands wouldn't rust out.
So we're going to see this on the 6 o'clock news with Hillary planting things? Is that what we're going to do?
Oh, these are, yeah, we've been making planters for the White House for 3 years now.
All right.
They have, I think they have 200 or 250 brand new planters. I don't know how many planters they have all total, and the reason that they need so many, this is kind of an interesting story. They rotate the plants every day in the White House, and I said, oh geez, I understand that that's our nation's capital and that that's the president's house and it's the closest thing to royalty that we have in this country, and it has to look nice, but every day the plants. He said, oh, that's not the reason. No, 10,000 people a day go through that building every day of the year, and they're all souvenir hunters. So the plants are in the greenhouse for 90 days, 90-day rotation in the greenhouse. They can survive 1 day in the White House, and then they're just trashed.
Oh boy.
I'll get a little nip off of this one and start this at home, and nobody will notice. Well, nobody would notice, just you, but 10,000 people doing it. The plant notices it real quick. Okay, we'll go in the carving room next.
Okay.
You still have all your fingers, I notice.
Yep. Have to keep, these are your money makers. You got to keep them. This is a newel post that we did. This went to, the one that for the customer was out of Honduran mahogany. Another carver and I worked on it, and it came out beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And this one here is a practice in the same, a study in the same column, and the has a top for it, and this is the top that we made up for the one that went to Sacramento, and now I have to make this top for this one. I had one and my daughter broke it, but it wasn't a very good one anyway, and I have to finish this. The wings on this is kind of interesting. The original carving that we did in the Honduran mahogany was straight up and down, and the wings just blended right in, and you couldn't see them. You couldn't tell that she was an angel. I mean, if you looked at it, if you know, I knew she was an angel, and Angel, the other carver, knew she was an angel, but we had a third grade class come through here. We give free tours to the schools, and we had a third grade class come through here, and they came up with the idea of putting the wings bigger than the piece of wood, and it worked great. It worked just great. Just glued on pieces and then carved it to be the wings going out. Yeah.
You carve that by hand?
Yes,
So
Yeah.
it's a newel post.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. The handrail goes up here, and this is the lead newel post, meaning it's the one right at the bottom floor. And when you open, this was a new construction in Sacramento. When you open the front door of this house, you see the staircase going up and the entranceway, the foyer, I guess it's called. And this is the lead newel post right square in the middle of your view. This is what you see. It's in front of God and everybody. Then I make my own carving tools in the blacksmith shop out of old files, see. You can still see the hash marks on this one. So the way that you do it, you buy these old files at garage sales. You can buy a whole box of them for $1. Then I heat them up, I pound them into shape, and I bring them in here and grind them and sand them to the configuration that I want. And this one, I think I'm happy with this now, the way that this is. Now I'll sharpen it, then I'll take it back out in the blacksmith shop, heat it up, temper it, and then make a wooden handle for it. And this will be a spoon bill, and a spoon bill gets in and out quickly.
You ever use planer blades?
Yes, planer blades are good. Yeah, yep. You can, this file steel is very good also, but you can't use new files. Doggone new files, they've outfoxed us now, and they case harden mild steel. So the minute you break through the case hardening, you're right back into mild steel again. This is a mantle out of oak going to Los Angeles, and this is the lead carving in the mantle here. This is going to go right up there, and then a mirror goes in there. On those little wings sticking out of the columns there, I made these in the blacksmith shop, and these are going to be candle holders, so that the pestles hold the candle and the petals catch the wax. This is out of eastern red oak. Okay, now we can go around.
You have a problem getting this hardwood like that?
Oh, there's a major problem getting good hardwood. Yeah, they cut down all the eastern oaks. They're into second growth and third growth now. That's a molding right there my daughters and I are working on, yeah. Yeah, we're going to make 37 feet of that molding, and there's going to be a little bird watching and coffee area between the sawmill and the molder building, and with great big windows that overlook the salt marsh, and those are all birds that you'd be seeing out on the salt marsh there. So then that's going to be the freeze molding over the tops of those windows.
All right, how beautiful.
And a couple from New York is ordering a duplicate of that because they see the same animals from their back deck.
Yeah, yeah. Only they want an otter too, don't
Not
they?
an otter because they have sea otters there, yeah.
Ah.
There's the president's desk. I thought it was already gone.
Here's the president's table.
Well, now they got peace in the Middle East. They should sign it on your table. Huh?
Sign the accord here. Okay. You okay there?
Sure. Just read this way. I can get it this way.
Yeah. It says,
I got a copy of the letter. Did you want a copy of the letter from the president too?
Sure.
so this is the table we're making as a gift to President Clinton, to the Clinton administration. And I'll tell you why for the gift in just a minute. But first, I'll explain the table to you. This is the hollowed out, burned out center of the tree right here, the goose pin, right? So the whole tree was about yay big in diameter. You can see how the grain is curly down here and all wavy, and then right down there where you are, the grain straightens up. And the original loggers, this tree was felled originally in 1891. And the original loggers liked the tree from where you are on, so they took all those cuts to the mill, but they left the butt cut in the woods as logging slash. And it laid in the woods for 101 years. And we came along last year and got this log and about 50 others off of a salvage logging job in Fieldbrook. That's why I happen to know when it was logged, because there were 3 big tree areas in this county: Fieldbrook, Elk River, and Hydesville. And Erickson, the original photographer, documented very, very clearly when those areas were logged. So then Jack McKellar and I cut the table with a chainsaw laid sideways. Then I planed it with a hand plane. And that's the table I'm working on for Pacific Lumber Company right now. So that's what this table looked like right after the planing. That's the sister slab to this. Then I stained it, and you see the colors that this thing held? You see the golds and the red hues in it, and some of the purple hues down in there. Normally redwood wants to turn dark brown like that screen right there. And the way that I did this is I took the board there. I took this board right here called Paduke. This is a South American hardwood. I took planer shavings off of it, see, like you have on your floor. You sweep up off of the floor. And I put them in a little pan with vinegar and 2 tablespoons of alum, and I boiled it and got that purple stain out of it. And this, yeah, and this coat has, this table's got 5 coats of that purple stain on it.
Come out hard?
What?
Is it hard to finish?
No, the stain is a water-based stain that goes right into the pores. So I put the stain on, and then I sanded it, and then I finished it. And the staining, by the way, that technique is from the 1700s. The finish is from the 1600s, and it's a combination of shellac, which is the poop from a lac bug, linseed oil, and alcohol. That's okay. No.
The nurse.
I know my job.
That's right.
And you apply it with what's called a rubber, and a rubber is a lint-free linen rag with a cotton wad inside of it. So we take the cotton wad and we dip up the the shellac and the linseed oil and the alcohol, and then we fold it over to make our rubber so that there's no creases. And then we start our pattern, and we go in a figure-8 pattern, and this table has got 15 coats of that on it. And then the last coat's called the sticking off coat, and it's long continuous runs on the last coat. Now the table is, the coats are done, and it's finished save for one final sanding now, and the thing I will use to sand it with are horsetails, equisetum. And if you feel that, you can feel that it's got silicas in it.
Indian sandpaper.
Yeah, they used it to brush their teeth with too.
That's right.
So what message are you sending President Clinton as you're sanding his table and polishing his table, or the administration?
One of the things that I'm thinking is that I am putting as much integrity as I possibly know how to into this table, because I feel that people are going to be sitting at this table making decisions that affect the whole world, and I hope they use as much integrity as they possibly can. So I thought if we started out that way, then maybe it would continue on. It would help.
Does their part.
Yes. And the legs were made, you can go around on that side. The legs were made by a friend and fellow blacksmith, Don Butler, in his shop, because I wanted more people than just myself to work on it. The feet are the bare feet at the four corners, because it's coming from California, and it's going to the eagle, which is the fed, so eagle talons in the center.
What was the reason you used the wrought iron instead of wood?
I wanted a mixed medium. Yeah, I thought it would be, tell you the truth, I thought we'd come up with something really new, and I found out Thomas Jefferson got his table with wrought iron legs, so you can't do nothing new. And the message that we're trying to send with this table, when President Clinton accepts this table and has the news conference, the message that we are trying to send is that we on the Pacific Northwest are highly skilled, highly trained professionals, that we can do a multitude of things, that when you think of softwoods, especially, and redwood products in particularly, you should think of the Pacific Northwest, and in redwood you should think of the three counties, Humboldt, Del Norte, and Mendocino County. We are the redwood capital of the world. And this is what the timber industry will be, and I don't mean tables, but I mean finished products, where we ship finished products out of this county.
Make more money now, too.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Is this the same one?
Yeah.
Oh, and here's the letter. The table is just beautiful.
Thanks. Everything was an experiment, and it's really neat that it came out.
All right, great.
Okay, we'll wire Viviana up now, and she can take you on the
Oh, sure, sure.
on the rest of the tour.
Who's the four-legged critter?
This is
Tangled in my mic wires there.
Okay.
Okay, we're on the air there.
Oh, right now? Okay.
They call this, which room?
We're heading back on the route. We just got off the route there to go look at the president's table, and we'll go back now to look at some other items. There you guys are. Hi. If you guys want to go back there to the president's table, then Eric can line you out on your first project of the day. We have some students here from McKinleyville who will be working with us, learning.
Hey guys. Wave to the camera. What's your name? Wayne. Nice to see you.
Okay, I gotta put my crew to work here.
Okay.
What I'll do is over here, people always ask about this car. Some people think that it's an antique car that maybe we were restoring, but it's a car that Eric's making. He took a Jeep chassis and I think a Chevy chassis and put them together. It has an engine, and what he was experimenting with was to see how metal and wood can be used together, and he found out that they work just fine. So after we got this far, we got sidetracked and we made this trolley car that's in the photograph here. This was the Eagle House trolley car. We made it on a van chassis, cut the body off, and built a new wooden frame over it. And it drove locally for a while, and now it's in Arizona. And then after that, we built another one for the city of Eureka on a bus chassis. Took a bus and cut the body off, built a steel frame, and then put a wood frame over it. It seats about 34, and the city does use it on holidays. They'd like to run it year-round, but the insurance problems are real challenging nowadays. So someday we hope to have it on full-time. These are some of the other items that we can make. The artwork here was done by Juanita Larson, a local artist who does watercolors of children. She's just top-notch. She did the artwork for us that we made the carved angel newel from. And here's some photographs here of Jack McKellar helping us cut the table for the president.
Is that the city council person?
That's our city councilman, Jack McKellar. And he likes to say that we tricked him into doing this. But he's been a very good friend for many years, and he has really been a help to us in many ways with his expertise.
Great.
And we'll step right around this way. I'll get on the other side here, and if you'd like to show them this machine here. This machine is our second oldest machine. It was made in 1866, and it ran off of an overhead line shaft like the other machines that you saw over there. You'd step on the pedal, and then this belt would be engaged to the overhead line shaft. Right now we have it set up with electricity. The material gets set on the table here. Are you able to get any of this here? Okay. The material is set on the table, and when the machine is engaged, both of these blades spin, the top and the bottom. The material is pushed through, and it cuts the top and the bottom at the same time for a mortise and tenon joint, which is the type of joinery that's used for doors and windows. I'll step back here and show you. The good thing about this type of joint is that you're gluing long grain to long grain, and so 100 years from now, when that glue gives out, the joint is what holds the door together. So doors nowadays, for the most part, are made with those little biscuit things, which just plain don't hold up as well. This door right over here is a door that was typically made at the Hammond Lumber Company, which, as you know, is the big sawmill over on the other side of the bay here. And we were making a set of these a few months ago, and two local folks, two gentlemen from Eureka came in. The one brother brought his older brother for his birthday. They were 70 and 74 years old. And the older brother, when he saw this door, just got so excited because he had made these doors at the Hammond Lumber Company at 16 years old. He had gone in to apply for a job and, of course, told him he was 18 because they couldn't hire a 16-year-old. And normally they would have started new people on green chain, which, as you know, is very physically demanding and also dangerous. So they instead put him on the door and window shop, and that's how he happened to be making doors and windows at 16 years old over at the Hammond Lumber Company. Now, normally what we do is have you folks go upstairs, but that might make it a little hard to do the camera work. So maybe you folks can go upstairs and we'll have the camera follow me, and I'll show you some of the machines down below here.
Okay.
Okay. I think if you can stand over there, we should have enough cord here. Okay. Yes. Okay. All righty, they can just go right upstairs here, and then I can get them going from the beginning.
Right around the corner, and then when you're done, come back in.
wait for a few minutes here for everybody to get.
Cherokee.
Northwest corner.
Great.
Nursery City.
So welcome here to Blue Ox. We're just giving a tour here from some folks that are local here from the Retired Loggers Club. So this machine here is from 1903. It's called a double drum sander. It has a round drum inside here with a coarse grit sandpaper, and then another one back here with a finer grit sandpaper. The material is fed through here, and the drums turn like this. So you can picture if the grain's going this way, we're fine. If the grain were going crossways, then the sandpaper would mark it, because you always need to sand with the grain. So what they did is they figured out how to move these drums back and forth as it's turning. So the material goes through, the drum is turning and going back and forth. So it sees it in an elliptical pattern as it goes. So let me turn this one on for you here. See how this moves it back and forth here. It can go up to 6 inches thick and up to 42 inches in length. Excuse me, in width. This particular machine Eric found down in Miranda, and he went to go pick it up in a pickup truck and realized it was just a little too big for a pickup truck. So he came back, and then, you know, time passed, and by the time he got down there again, the road had washed out because the rains had started. So he got angry, and he tore the machine apart and carried the pieces across the washout, threw them in the back of the truck, and then halfway home realized he hadn't numbered anything, he hadn't drawn any diagrams, he had no idea how to put it back together. So it took him 2 years, and he kept working on it, a little bit here, a little bit there, a big giant Rubik's Cube that he kept working at. Everybody thought he was nuts until we got it together, and then we use it all the time. It can do a whole door or window at one time, so it's really a valuable tool for us. This one is a single side planer. It has two 30-inch blades in here that spin this way. This whole bed can go up and down. It takes material up to 12 inches thick, and the conveyor carries it and holds it steady as it goes through. It's made by the Orton Machine Company in San Francisco, California. It has a little plaque here that says manufacturer's number 44. And Eric needed a part for it one time. Looked him up there in San Francisco, and they're still in business. So he called him up, and the wonderful receptionist said, "Oh yes, we can help you. What is the serial number of your machine, sir?" And he said, "Well, it doesn't have a serial number. It just says manufacturer's number 44. She said, "Oh, well, just a moment, sir." So she puts another gentleman on, and he says, "This is Connie Orton. And what number machine is that you have?" This is the grandson of the man that started the company and designed the machine and got everything going. So Connie told us that his grandfather started with serial number 40 to make it look like he'd been in business a while. So let me turn this one on for you here. You can see all the belts that get everything going. And the conveyor carries it. Now by moving this handle, we can have this go up and down. You can see right down there how that works it. There we go. Now, yes. Oh, I'm sorry. You couldn't hear me above that noise. I don't know why. The belts here are what make it work from the electric engine, and this engages the conveyor, and then this handle here moves and connects this with this while it's spinning, and that makes the bed go up and down. Yeah. Now, if you can hang on for 1 minute, I'm going to need to cut something here. Let me just take this off for a second.
Well, I figured it's a little better than 20 feet.
Okay, as I mentioned before, the Tenener over there was our second oldest machine. It's 1866. And this one is our oldest. This is 1852, and it's hand operated. You just push this little lever down and flip the board over. And with two little plunges like that, it makes an arch top Gothic picket. And see how it's got that nice curve to it instead of the straight dog-ear that you tend to find in stores nowadays. This particular machine is one of Eric's favorites, not only because it makes such a wonderful product, but because it's a window into the time period that machines like this were used. During the late 1800s, we used to ship boatloads of these to Europe, Australia, the East Coast, and bearing in mind that was before roads came into this area. Everything had to go out by steamship. And in the mills, when the gentlemen got too old to work in the main part of the mill, they couldn't just let them go. There was no Social Security. There was no retirement plan. So what they would do is have machines like this on what they call the old man side. There'd be a circle of them all around, and the gentleman could work until and be paid by the piece and finish out their work life. But the best part was that as they were working, they could talk. So the stories of when they had worked in the mills and when they had worked in the woods, you know how stories evolve, they get refined and honed real good. And then when they'd go to the bars on the weekends or at family gatherings, they could pass those stories on. And that was a period of history that will never be again. Now there are roads out to all the remote areas, and the guys don't live out there and camp out there like they used to. When Eric first started working in the woods at 14 and 15, he used to go out there and camp out for a week. And you can imagine a bunch of guys camping out in the woods for a week. There were a lot of stories to tell. So that's why this machine is one of his favorites. Let's see here. Let's go over here. There's two machines over here I can show you, and then we'll go upstairs. I'll get over on this side here. Okay, I'll get over on this side. Oh, that's okay. You're fine there. You're fine there. This machine is called a shaper, and I would take it apart to show you this, but I don't know if Eric needs to run another pattern on here later or not. It has a spindle here that spins, and different blades can be put on it with all different types of patterns. So right now he's got it set up with a fence here so he can run a straight board through. If he takes these fences off, then he can run a pattern onto an irregular surface by just holding it as it moves through. So it's really a very versatile machine. This machine and this machine here came to us from Skagway, Alaska. We'd had a gentleman come through on a tour, and we told him we were looking for a shaper, and he remembered seeing one up in Alaska where he was working. So when he got back up there, he checked around and found that they were abandoned in a field that was owned by the railroad, and the railroad was just going to use them for boat anchors. So he got them for us, and we paid the shipping to get them down here, and we've got them online. Now this is a table saw, as you can see, but it has a couple of unique features. The whole table can tilt, this part of the bed floats, and while it's running, you can crank the little handle here and change blades. It's got a cross cut and a rip blade depending on what type of a cut you need to make as you're going. And you can't buy that today. Nobody makes a twin arbor table saw anywhere. Let me do that one again here. Two separate blades, yeah. Okay. What I'll do is flip this off here, and then we'll go upstairs. That'd be okay? You'll just follow me, okay? Oh, okay. We're going up the steps here. These catwalks we put up when we, hello?
Somebody else for the tour?
Somebody, did you need to ask a question about a molding? Okay, be right with you. Hang on just a second. Hey, John? John, are you there? Yeah. Could you do me a favor and tell Eric that there's somebody up front that has a question about some gutter? Could you tell Eric that there's somebody up front that has a question about some gutter? Thanks a lot, John.
Sure. You made the catwalks?
We made the catwalks so that people could walk through while we were working. The saw right up above here, do you guys notice the saw, I'm sure? As you know, it's called a misery whip, a crosscut saw. The gentleman that gave us this saw is Mel Bird, who carved the statue that you saw out front. Pardon me? From Phillipsville, the one and only. And he told us that the reason that it has those big scoops in it it's called a gullet, is so that as you're cutting inside the log, they fill up with sawdust. And then they'd take one of the little handles off, pull it all the way through, tap the sawdust off, and then put it back through. So each knife, each saw had a certain amount of cuts that you could make before it would fill up with sawdust. And this particular saw took 32 passes before you'd have to stop and get the sawdust out.
Is this the scoop you're talking about? That
The
round
round whole part, right. A circle saw only has little sharp teeth, and because as it comes down, then the sawdust gets to fall right off.
Okay.
Okay, now we'll step over to our plaster reproduction area.
What's the actual length of it?
Well, let's see here. We have 12 feet between, so that's 12. That's probably 20. No, I think it's about 20. Yeah, it was long. I wouldn't want to be the one pushing it through a tree. Over here on this table, we have some of the plaster reproduction that we've done. This face here is from the Bell House here in Eureka. This was the original. This gentleman's face here is from the Lazio building. We have started collecting some of the ornamentation from the buildings that are in the earthquake zone that hopefully will be able to be retrofitted instead of being demolished. And this one is from the Art Center building. Originally, when buildings were built, of course, they built them out of wood, and then they had problems with fires, so they told everybody to build buildings out of brick, and so now we're finding out that those are the problems that we have with earthquakes. So over here, let me show you how the reproduction works. The originals, these are reproductions here, the originals are over there. People bring us the original. Here's an original. This happened to be in a couple of different pieces. It's from a building here in Eureka. We put the pieces back together. There's little chips that are missing, so that will be filled in with clay. And then with liquid that you put together, two different components. It's a silicone rubber. It gets put over the top of it, poured over the top, and then you can make a mold that you peel off. This one has the mother mold underneath and on top. The liquid plaster is poured inside here, and then when it dries, then you take the mother mold off, and it makes a new original for you. The ceiling medallion here is from the Liberty Theater. Some of you may remember the Liberty Theater. It's where the annex is to the Clark Museum now. And we met a gentleman who used to clean that chandelier that, of course, this hung upside down from the ceiling. And they used to hoist him up on a rope with a pulley system so that he could clean the chandelier periodically. This ceiling medallion is from the Bell House also, and that's one that we're going to be doing. We've only got those pieces, so we figure if we can get 1/4 of it, reproduce that quarter, and then make the other 3, then we can reproduce that entire ceiling medallion. Let's see here, I better go around this way. Okay, let's go over here to this table. This is a whole nother technology over here. Those of you that know that the old houses were made with lath and plaster, and you couldn't nail into those walls. So when they wanted to hang pictures, they would have what they called picture rail, and it would hang 2 feet down, and then you'd have your little hooks and your wire and hang your pictures. So we got a piece of this, and somebody wanted us to make some more, and we thought that it was made with plaster. So we tried making it with plaster, but it was fragile, and it would crack right off. So Eric said, well, let's find out what it was made out of, because this piece you can still flex, and when we cut it, and this is 120 years old, when we cut it, it didn't chip, it didn't crack, or anything. So he started calling around, talking to people, picture frame companies, and they said, oh, no, you can't do that. And like Eric says, you can't tell a dumb logger, no, he can't do something, so he had to make sure that he was going to do it. So we found a gentleman in England who had worked with this as a young man, and he told us what the recipe was. It's called Compo. It's made with powdered chalk, linseed oil. This is a substance called balsam of pine. It's tree sap that's had the turpentine cooked out. And then the most bizarre ingredient is hide glue, which is ground horse's hooves. You cook all of this together, bring it to 150 degrees. It makes a peanut buttery consistency, peanut buttery consistent goo. You spread it on the board, which has the shape, and then, let me step over here. This machine we built, and it pushes the pattern onto the board. So it embosses it onto the board and then it dries. So we had to make this wheel. And the way that we made the wheel was by taking this substance here called Sculpey, which you can buy at any craft store. He figured out what the distance was that the pattern was repeating and made that the circumference of the wheel, pushed the Sculpey onto the wheel, and then rolled the wheel onto the board and got the pattern imprinted onto the mold. We baked it, and we're getting about a 50% success rate right now. We think that the thing that we need to do is have a room with a constant temperature, because there's only a short period of time from when you bring it up to the 150 degrees to when it can get embossed onto the wood. And we've got all of these pieces over here, which some of them are considerably less than perfect. And somebody suggested to us that maybe we wouldn't want to have those out in public view because they're obvious failures. But Eric felt that it was important because failure is a part of life. It's part of the learning process. It's part of understanding how things work. There you go. So in the school that we're setting up now, working with both adults who want to refine their skills or learn new skills, and also with young people who maybe need a different environment other than the regular school system to learn in, we felt that it was important for them to understand that failure happens to everybody and that that's how you learn. So with recreating these lost arts, there's no instant solutions. We just have to keep working at it. Unfortunately, yes. We developed a system to drip lubrication on there and hopefully to see if that would help, and it did help some. These wheels originally were made out of brass. So we've got somebody in Los Angeles that apparently has a whole collection of them that we've been talking to, so hopefully they'll decide to share those and then we can recreate patterns for people. Okay, we'll go around here and out the door here. Be sure as you go out to check the most gorgeous view in all of Humboldt County.
What are we seeing out here?
You can see the whole North Bay here. There's the bridge that goes across the Ryan Slough. There's Freshwater and Jacoby Creek. There's Arcata, and you can even see Founders Hall all the way, probably all the way to Trinidad.
What a view that is.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
So we'll go down the stairs here, and you'll see our ex-whale blubber melter.
Is this your pond out here too?
This is high tide.
High tide.
Yeah.
A little bit of Humboldt County.
Yep, high tide in Humboldt County. We originally this was a whale blubber renderer, and we use it as a heat source for the cement room in here that we can dry lumber in. It's a dry kiln that we built many years ago.
What do you use it for now?
It's a heat source. We build fires inside of it, and there's pipes that circulate air into that cement room there where we can have lumber and dry lumber. It's a dry kiln.
What's in
North Mountain Power Company, 1904. That's when the building was built.
And it was an electric power station?
That's exactly right. It was built by Old Man Vance, who I guess his first name was really John. You guys can go ahead if you'd like. And he originally, this was at the very beginning of electricity, so he originally started with direct current, and then they found that that didn't carry, and so they had to shut down and convert over to electric current.
Is that a decoy?
We have some decoys trying to tempt some geese our way. Every once in a while we have some Canadian honkers that fly over. That's what we need.
You get a tide here.
This is the high tide,
High
yes.
tide.
This is high tide,
How much
yeah.
does it vary?
Oh,
What's high,
let's
low?
see here.
How high is your tide?
Oh, maybe somebody else might be able to answer that. Who knows what our high and low tide is? Is it about 8 feet different? Does that sound right to you, gentlemen? I think so. So what we're walking along here is the outside of the Sawmill building. Let's see here. I don't know if you can see through the window here. We might need to get on the other side. Okay, good. I don't know if you get a reflection.
There's no window here.
Here's a place without a window. There we go. So we've got our 52-inch circle saw there.
Let me get you in the picture.
Oh, all right. We've got our 52-inch circle saw there. This is a gang rip, and on the far side from that is the resaw. The technology here is about 1940s, and in 1952 the Forest Service did a study, and they found that there were 450 sawmills of this same type in this little ring of mountains that we just looked at, not heading up over into the hills, just right down along the flat. 450.
How many now?
Counting us 4. So our particular view is that as the big companies move on to other territories, that will leave room for the small operator to start working again. Okay, we can continue on through this way. Oh, one of the things I didn't mention was that one of the reasons that this sawmill is so important for Victorian restoration is that the original lumber that was used for the old buildings were the original dimensions, where a 2x4 was a 2x4. And so old buildings that were built had full dimension decorations on them now. So sometimes we have to mill our own dimension stock. You'll see this corbel here that is 11 by 14. Which of course you can't buy. 4 by 14, excuse me. And here's a 4 by 7 and a full 6-inch by 8-inch.
What'd you call this thing?
These are corbels.
Corbels.
They go under the eave on the exterior of a building.
Not like Corbel.
Not like corbel, no.
I group it all together and call it gingerbread.
Gingerbread is the correct term, yes.
Do you work, how many different woods do you work with?
We can work with any kind of wood, yeah. So this is the bird watching area that we're building. It will be all enclosed with smoky glass, so that as the birds fly by, you can see an egret out there, and just right in front of him is a blue heron. Can you see him there? And where that sign is, at low tide, this is all mud flats, and so the sea lions come and sun themselves out in the mud flats there. And we're going to have binoculars that people can use and have little places for people to sit and look around. Oh, it's one of those projects. We're working on it. So we'll continue on this way over into the Mulder building.
Tell us what Eric's doing.
Let's see here. These gentlemen are going to be helping us build a stall for a jack that was donated to us. His name is Jackson, and apparently he's very friendly. So Eric is wiggling through some long boards there. They'll be making them into the walls for his stall. What he's driving is a I was going to say the Michigan loader, but it's a Girlinger forklift. And it looks very easy to drive, but it's very tricky because it's got the steering in the back there.
And the McKinleyville lads are learning a trade? Or
yes, they are. They're working with a program at McKinleyville High that's through the HROP program. And they come here 2 hours a day instead of going to school from 1 to 3. And we'll be working with them on a variety of different projects.
How great for them to be able to do this.
Oh, yeah. Okay, we'll come right around this way. There's a big pile here. Eric just finished a run just about 10 minutes before you got here. So if you come around this way, and if you'd like to stand over there, you can get the angles here. As long as I don't trip myself over the wire. You're perfect right there. Yeah, you're perfect right there. If you guys like to come in around on this side, you can see a little better on this machine. You just have to step over the piles here. Eric just finished a run just a little bit before you got here. And those are our pigeons that have moved in under the eave there. They've got a whole brood there. This machine is a Hermance 4-sided molder. And what it does is takes a rough board and cuts a pattern onto the top and both sides and the bottom all at one pass. Eric apparently already took out the setup that he had in here. Here's one of the knives. So the knives fit on like this, and the material, the head spins and it cuts the patterns all at the same time. Any configuration of knives can be put on here, any combination of knives, so any type of pattern can be used. One of the more complex things that we make here is gutter. We're the only ones that we know of nationwide that can match gutter patterns for people. This particular machine has a great story to it. As you guys know, Eric started out logging in the woods, and then the logging market fell apart, so he thought he'd try and make some finished products. And we had the sawmill first, and then he thought maybe he could make smooth boards, and maybe that would bring in a little more money than the just rough boards. So he got this machine from Miranda, and he had it out in the yard here. This building wasn't built yet, and he was trying to figure out how to run it, and this old-timer came down and parked in his truck and sat there and watched Eric for a little while. Then when Eric shut the machine off, the old-timer said, "You know, I can't tell you how to do it right, but I can tell you you're doing it all wrong." And he was the knife grinder for the Hammond Lumber Company for 30 years. So he went home and he came back that afternoon with 4 boxes of knives, which you can see over on the far table. We'll walk over there. And what happened was that he had worked at the Hammond Lumber Company, as I said, for 30 years making the knives to run the different patterns. He didn't set up the machine, so he couldn't help Eric with that part of it, but he did have all of these knives. And the way that he came about having all of these knives is that when the company was bought out by Georgia Pacific in the early 50s, they told him to box up the knives. And he knew that they were going to melt them down. They were going to use them for scrap metal. And he's told Eric, "I couldn't bear to see 30 years of my life just be melted down into scrap iron." So he came back that night and he stole the boxes and he took them home and he put them in his garage. And 15 or 20 years later, when Eric got those knives, when he found Eric teaching himself how to run this machine, he brought those knives down and he gave them to Eric, and he told Eric the condition was that we use them. And we have made products that we ship all over. As a matter of fact, we helped rebuild parts of San Francisco after these knives helped rebuild San Francisco after the 1906 earthquake, and then again after the 1989 earthquake. Okay. And after Mr. Shinelli gave us those knives, we never did see him again. And somewhere we know he's watching, and we know that he knows that we are using all of these knives. Now the top knives are from the East Coast. We got a call after we were in one of the national magazines that we've been in, and a gentleman told Eric, "My name is Homer Wiedemeyer, and I don't know how many knives you got, but I got more." So Eric said, "Oh, okay." Well, it turns out that he's closing up his family business, 60 years that they've been running, and he can't find anybody to take over the business, so he's having to close up shop. And so he's sending us his whole knife collection from the East Coast. So we have the West Coast knife collection and the East Coast knife collection. So we can pretty much match just about anything anybody could ever think of. So we'll continue on along back out the same door and down the hall here.
Who was it, Miranda, had that machine?
Pardon me?
Who in Miranda had that machine?
Mr. Eck was his name.
John Eck.
Yes, yes.
Here are the gutters you were talking
Here's some of the gutter patterns. We've even run a pattern. It got a little mangled up in the storm out there. We even ran, I believe it was this pattern, for Sturbridge Village in Massachusetts that normally makes all of their own materials, but that huge gutter was just a little more than they were willing to tackle, because they would have had to make it by hand, because that's an 1800s historic park there. So we made a gutter for historic Sturbridge Village.
Do you have a national and international market?
We have shipped a few places internationally, yes, and we are in the process of building a gazebo for our sister city in Japan.
Okay.
Yes.
Kamisu.
Kamisu, exactly. Here's some of the other patterns that have been run, and I don't know if you can get this picture here. This is a picture of gutter being run. The shrouds have to be put up so that in case any knives fly out. Everybody's protected.
Safety first.
Yeah. So we'll go down the hall here. Over on our right, this is a 100-ton stamp press that we'll be having online soon. And we'll step into the blacksmith shop here. You just want to stand right there. I think we should be okay. Excuse me. You guys make it down those steps okay there? Have to step around the dogs. They don't like to move over for anybody.
Big guy.
This is Brutus. He's a sweetheart.
Well named, well named.
Australian Shepherd.
The blacksmith shop here is significant for a couple of reasons. Historically, the blacksmith shop was where any type of development started. The blacksmith had to make the nails, they had to make the saws to cut the lumber. Everything started in the blacksmith shop. In the blacksmith shop, what we've been working with is some young people, some young students who have been doing different projects after hours with Eric. I don't know if you can see the fence over here. This is being made by Brad Hooper, who's building this for the elegant Victorian mansion here in Eureka. And the little display here in the middle, this is going to be a rotisserie for the beach house up at Merriman's that the students are all working on, so that he can do full roasts and so forth in the out there is full cows, yes.
Ooh.
Hi, Eric, would you like to come back and take over here? You got a pause in the workforce out there?
I got them set up, yeah.
Great.
And these guys doing great?
Why don't we trade microphones here so you can do the microphone. Okay.
Did you
Did a great job.
did you tell them that Sam's going to have a party for the kids?
I didn't mention that yet. No.
Sam Merriman?
Yeah, for the kids building the rotisserie here. We work with 7 young people at night, and none of the 7 know each other, except for my 2 daughters. They're the only ones that know each other. And so this party will be the first time this group of 7's ever gotten together, and they're going to close the beach house and have a private party for these 7 kids.
Can you hang
Yeah.
on to about 10 feet of that wire so we get it up? And it'll snag and turn off. Great, thanks.
So my 12-year-old last night, she and I did the mechanical end of this thing, did the machining work, and let's see, there's 2 9-year-olds, 1 girl and 1 boy. 3 9-year-olds, 2 girls, 2 9-year-old girls and 1 boy, 2 13-year-old boys, and a 13-year-old girl. Working on this right now.
You're learning that. What, those wooden gears?
No, they're steel gears, but you see, you got to be able to lift the pig off. So then there'll be wooden handles on both ends, and then when the pig's done, they pick it up and a guy on each end, and they walk off with the pig. But so the gears then allow that to happen versus a chain where you'd have to take something apart or anything like that.
I saw one of these at Fort Humboldt Days the other day.
Yes.
He was doing stuff up there.
We're going to have. There's a heck of a resurgence for blacksmithing in the United States going on right now. In the world, yeah. This one's from Bembo. That's Mr. Bembo's forge right there. Yeah, Mrs. Bembo gave that to me, and then we're going to have an outdoor station right there at the stamp press. That's going to be the outdoor smithy shop, and that's going to be there's going to be 2 more forges out there, so we'll have total of 4 forges altogether.
Okay.
So the gate here, Eric, I didn't talk about the gate.
This is the gate my 12-year-old daughter just got done with, 13 years old now. She cut.
For your front gate?
Yeah, for out here, right. She cut the flowers with a cutting torch. Then she hammers them, gets them red hot in the forge, and then dimples them to make them flower looking. She rolls these rolls with the, when they're red hot. On the leaves here, she takes this 3/8 rod. She flattens the end of it. This is all done red hot. then she splits it with a hot chisel, then she tapers the splits to points, and then she grabs onto it with a pair of needle nose pliers and rolls the points around, and that's how she makes those rods.
Sorry, they're not here to be on camera.
The only thing that I did was the arc welding. And then these are the two kilns that we're making right now, right out over here. The round one on the right is called a beehive kiln, and that's the glass blowing kiln. And the rectangular one with the dome top you see on the left is the ceramics kiln. And we're showing people how to dig up bay mud and make ceramic tiles out of bay mud.
Oh,
right. Yep.
The clams are bonuses.
Right. The clams are bonuses, exactly. This is the log the president's table came out of.
Okay. 100-year-old log or so.
Yep.
Oh.
Looks better inside.
It's smaller out here, you know?
Funny how that goes, isn't it?
Trying to envision it, you know, in a tree form. It's like, wow.
And then this is our skid camp that we're making right now. You see how the buildings are on sleds? This is like Camp 9 and PL's Camp 6. And see, they're on donkey sleds, the buildings. So that one's going to be our general store, which will actually be the gift shop. Keep the school alive. This one's going to be the theater and schoolhouse.
All right. Intimate theater.
Yeah, yeah. So there's going to be during the daytime, when we're not using it for a classroom, there'll be a backlit projection screen right here, and then and there'll be historic slideshows going, you know, like a 10-minute show that repeats over and over again. And then let's say a glass blower wants to come and talk to us, or a potter, or whatever. Then the screen gets out of the way, this becomes a podium, and this becomes our lecture hall then. So this is our multi-purpose room. Every school needs a multi-purpose room.
Here's a picture of you.
Yeah, yeah, and that's one of the boys working on the Merriman's fence. That one's named Brad. Yeah, Brad Hooper. And then the next building over is going to be the bunkhouse. That's kind of where I spend most of my time.
Not really. You look pretty busy to me.
Liven up here, we got guests. Jeez, they're sleeping.
Guess everybody's at a store. Before you can afford the other ones.
So this is the bunkhouse, and this was going to be a static display. So to do just like we're doing, so that people could come through and see what the conditions were like for the early loggers and lumbermen. But then it dawned on us that these kilns that we're putting in, because they're wood-fired, take 28 hours to bring up the temperature. And that's not like a stove like this where you throw a little bit of wood in and come back an hour later. That's shoving wood into that thing just as hard as you can shove it in, because you're trying to melt glass, which is 2,200 degrees. So all of a sudden it dawned on us when we're firing then in the kilns, this is where the stokers will jungle up. So we can have 8 stokers jungled up in here, and then they can take shifts, fire in the kiln, and we can fire around the clock.
Just the right height.
Boy, it is, you're right. He just clears. And the next one,
homeless shelter and get some workers down here.
yeah. The next one's going to be the next one over. I haven't started yet, and it's going to be the cook shack. And then out behind, on the other side of those two buildings is where Jackson, the jackass, is going to go, and that's what the two boys are working on right now. Jim and Wayne, they're working on Jackson's house, and next week Jackson's going to come down here. And then Beyond that is going to be where the Indian village is, and Jim gave us all the trees, and we have those trees planted all the way around the future Indian village. So
What kind of
that'll be
trees?
A variety of pine, spruce, and fir.
pines. Boy, all kinds of pines. I never even knew there were so many pines. It's incredible.
From all over the world.
From all over the world out there.
France, India,
Huh?
and Italy.
Oh, really? All over the world? Oh, like that Japanese pine is from Japan?
Yeah, Japanese black pine, and there's the
Oh,
Himalayan white pine. I think I had one of those. And then
yes.
Alipa pine from France, and Italian stone pine from Italy.
Oh, for crying
The
out loud.
Italian stone pine has a large edible nut. If you went to buy the seed for seeds, it costs 20 cents a piece. So when they get big and produce the cloves, you can start sowing nuts.
Okay, okay. I see.
Great. International Forest.
Yes. Right here at Blue Ox. So we have one more display to show, and then we're done.
We've also had to learn how to create a manufacturing business.
That step goes the wrong way. It's sloped kind of backwards there.
Eyeglasses and old Jack.
Yeah, two of them. There's one over here too, Jim.
Yeah, I see it.
Man killers. So this is going to be, you've heard of Stonehenge, well this is Woodhenge. No. No. I'll explain why the Woodhenge here in a minute. This is going to be the shingle display when we finally get it done. There's going to be a display here on hand splitting shingles with a froe. I don't have a very good piece of wood here because I got a knot, but we'll try it. So that's our shingle that we get. The best man I ever heard, they did a race one time, and he hand split 100 squares in one day. But they had two guys bringing him bolts, and he just sat there and split. That's all that he did. Hand split 100 squares. That's enough squares to cover this roof right here. Wow. And then this is what the biologists call a nursery log. A nursery log is a tree that fell down in the woods and then has pockets in it. This was man-made because some bolt cutter came along after this tree was felled and tried to make bolts out of this tree, shingle bolts like these, only he was kind of a dumb bolt maker because this is a curly grain log. Well, he got this far along and saw the error of his ways, and he left, and that then made a perfect home as the forest duff falls on it. Here is a deer fern. Here's a tree fern. These are blackberries, true blackberries. Here's a redwood tree. Here's a huckleberry. Here's another redwood tree. Here's a leatherback fern. Here's a fern, I don't know what it is, and here's a five-fingered fern. But you can see everybody is just barely hanging on. This log came in this way on the logging truck, by the way. And everybody is barely making it because there's too much sun. Even though I water them morning and night.
Call a deer fern.
This one right here.
Oh, thank you.
Even though I water it morning and night, so that's what Woodhenge here is all about. We have two more posts to put in, and then this is going to get a lattice roof over the top of it and knock the light down and make it like it was in the forest so that these things can survive a little bit easier.
So when is everything going to be done? That's a terrible question. You don't have to answer that.
Oh, yeah.
Never be done.
What did she say?
It never gets all done.
Oh, it never?
More new things happening.
Right, right. We got a train that's coming. We're building a train yet. There's a
You mean around the property from the train?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
There's a wagon ride yet to happen. There's lots of stuff yet to happen.
All right. Fantastic.
Maybe, Eric, you could tell a little bit about the school that we're setting up and classes that they could call us.
Okay, I told about the one-day classes already. Then there's the medium term, which that's what we're calling it, and those are the 2-week and 2-week to 6-week classes. We have a list of those, and then for young people, there is the long term, and that's a 1-year class, and that's going to be 25 students. So there will be 25 students here at all times, and they will be actual apprentices to the 5 masters that will be the master teachers. And those apprentices, after the first month, then they will not only apprentice, but they will also help teach the short-term classes and the medium-term classes.
And your master teachers, 5, will teach?
All of the traditional arts, from broom making, dyeing, spinning, weaving, glass blowing, iron work, ceramics work, woodworking, clear on from logging the log all the way through to the finished product. What we're trying to show is for people how to get into business for themselves. How do they make a product? I'm telling the young people, if you know how to make something, you can always make a living in this life.
All right, that's what our ancestors used to tell us.
And it worked.
Okay.
This is what the loggers used to rest on when they retired. They'd pick up a timber carrier and lean out like this and take a rest.
Yeah.
Right.
How you know that?
And in each end, they pick up a timber and they carry it.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to walk us out to the gate?
Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed it.
Maybe you can.
Thoroughly.
Very much so. Very much so.
I think, are there a few more things inside?
Yes,
You said
yes.
something about it.
Those of you that you and your husband that used to be.
So how many acres have you got here?
Looks like 50, but it's really only 2.
High tides, does the water bother you?
No.
Not now.
One time in 21 years. It jumped the fill one time.
Originally it was North Mountain.
I guess I'm trying to mosey over to the big guy and end up with a shot of the big guy.
Okay.
Where'd he come from?
My friend Mel Bird carved him.
Especially for here, or did he
No,
someplace else?
20 years ago for the Sawblade Tavern down in Phillipsville.
Oh, okay.
And then Mel sold the Sawblade last year, and or 2 years ago, and brought the giant up and gave him to us. So that was nice of him, wasn't it? Phillipsville.
Mel Bird.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
haven't drunk there?
Oh, years ago when I was young.
Eric, thank you very much. And Viviana, thank you very much for a
Thanks.
delightful tour.
Oh, we've enjoyed it tremendously. We love it when people come down. We like to show what we're doing. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
In 1987, actor Ted Danson took a walk with his daughters and took a good look at the shore, and he realized the oceans and waterways were in trouble. He founded the American Oceans Campaign and took the message to Congress.
16 trillion gallons of waste are dumped into our coastal waters from industrial plants and sewage treatment plants every year. Air pollution infuses our waters with chemicals that cause destruction of habitat and fishery resources. What we are doing as a society is turning our bays, our estuaries, and our coastal waters into one large chemistry experiment.
And then, in 1989, he began a cross-continental trip that would take him from eastern bays to the western sounds in search of some answers. This film traces part of that journey. The journey started in Boston.
Show the kid from Arizona what you're catching, all right? What are you catching?
We have large codfish, and we have large gray sole. Flesh. Take a look at this.
I now smell like cod. Good heavens.
This is a large cod. Look at that. Look how stiff it is. Rigor mortis hasn't even left the fish. Come on, Ted, hold out your hands here.
You want me to hold this fish?
It's a great trophy.
I now have my fish.
Now, what you feel is butter. You might think it's slime, but it's butter.
No, this is slime. This is definitely slime.
This is a fresh fish.
Touring Legal Seafoods with owner Roger Berkowitz, Ted found careful screening procedures. Legal Seafoods buys fish caught 100 miles or more offshore, and even then, it must be carefully checked. Fishing the shallow waters, where clams and oysters live, is more difficult. On any one day, 1/3 of America's shellfish beds are closed because of pollution. The fish that pass their physicals end up here in Legal Seafood's restaurant. Protein for those of us at the top of the food chain.
Okay, more and more of us are eating fish. We know it's good for us. At the same time, we're getting afraid of what's happening in our coastal waters. Are we polluting the fish we're eating? Is it full of toxin?
Well, it's sort of like having a precious commodity like gold in your fingers, in your hand, and letting it slip through your fingers, and knowing that unless someone stops it quickly, it's gone for good. And to have that kind of potential and to lose it is a shame for everybody.
Do you really feel like this is in jeopardy?
I feel that if we don't wake up, it could be.
It could be gone for good?
Literally. If we don't wake up to the fact that we're polluting our waters, we can be in a lot of trouble. Because it's too good to waste. It is too good to waste.
Bostonians are particularly aware of pollution. The harbor may be the most polluted in the nation. 2 million toilets flush into pipes more than a century old, and each day, some 500 million gallons of partially treated sewage pour into the harbor from 2 overworked treatment plants. In one of these plants is a machine so old that the Smithsonian Institution longs for it. Such neglect has forced Boston into the most costly public building project in Massachusetts history, a $6 billion waste treatment system. Paul Levy is director of the Massachusetts Water Quality Authority.
This is scum. This is the stuff that floats on the top of the sewage. It's oil, it's grease, plastics.
Everything I flush down a toilet.
Every time anyone flushes a toilet, it ends up here. Well, this is the end of the pipeline here. You've got Boston, all the surrounding communities, 43 of them, 2.5 million people. The sewage comes over, ends up in tunnels, gets pumped up, comes in through the sedimentation tanks. Sludge gets put in those round, flat buildings over there, which are the digesters. Right. And then we take that sludge, and right now we pump it out into the harbor. And you kind of wonder what's the point. If you're going to separate the solids and the liquids, why put them back together again in the harbor? And
that's why Boston Harbor is one of the dirtiest in the country. So what's the plan? You're about to spend $6 billion.
The first part of the plan is to stop discharging the sludge. And we'll be making fertilizer out of that sludge and marketing it. So this is sludge, which is basically human waste, human feces, goes into a digester where bacteria eat it up. We then put it through a press and squeeze the water out, at which point it's no longer human feces anymore. It's turned into a material that's actually closer to dirt.
What do you do with all of this now that you have it here?
This cannot be used for food production because of the toxic chemicals that are in sewage sludge. You've got lead and cadmium and mercury and so on. That means you couldn't use this stuff to grow spinach and other vegetables. But you can use it on parks, on turf farms, where people aren't growing food. Boston has woken up. It's starting to fix its problems. We're making a lot of investments. I don't see that across the country. I don't see the environmentalists tapping into what I know is a natural constituency across the country of people who are upset, angry, want solutions.
The next stop, Connecticut, and third-generation lobsterman Terry Backer. A few years ago, Terry and his friends grew tired of the pollution that was threatening their livelihoods. They sued the city of Norwalk for allowing sewage to flow into the Connecticut Sound. They won.
You and your family have been fishing these waters for years. What do you see happening that's different?
What we're seeing are the cumulative effects of years of abuse in ignorance. I think at one point we were ignorant about what we were doing, and today we're arrogant about it. Nature's not going to tolerate either of those, and it'll shake us off like fleas off a dog's back. We have toxics built up in the sediments. We have exacerbated algae blooms that actually turn the Sound brown. We've seen the Sound brown, 50% of it turn brown. This is something you can't see unless you have a microscope. Turns this body of water brown. We have a real problem, and that's all sewage-related problems.
What else affects the Sound?
When you think about oil, you think about the Amoco Cadiz. You think about the Exxon Valdez. You think about the big, big oil spills. But we have a continual oil spill on our coast. It happens every day. We have millions and millions of cars going up and down the road leaking hydrocarbon products, oil, grease, gasoline, ethylene glycol, antifreeze. All this stuff goes onto the road, and it doesn't disappear. And when it rains, it comes down these storm drains and into the Sound. And we're the top of the food chain. Right. We're the people who get it all at the end. And we either make a decision, hey, and we're biting the hand that feeds us. We're killing ourselves. We got used to saying, we can't eat from here anymore because it's polluted. We can't swim here anymore because it's polluted. We can't take the kids to play by the marsh here anymore because it's gone. And we've gotten so used to just moving over that we accept anything that comes down the pike.
Why'd you agree to do this? This can't be an easy job. Why do you want to do it?
Well, my first impulse is to tell you, well, I love the water and I love the Sound. But a lot of people do, and I don't think that's it. When my son Jacob was born, I looked around and saw that each generation is leaving less behind it. And I felt that it was my responsibility to put up a fight for him. Maybe it has more to do with my kids than it has to do with the Sound.
From Connecticut, a swing south along the eastern seaboard. Here and across the nation, 53% of the fresh and saltwater wetlands have been lost. That's 60 acres an hour since the mid-1780s. These productive environments protect against coastal erosion, and they filter pollutants and sediments. They're the nurseries and feeding grounds for shrimp, salmon, red snapper, striped bass, 75% of the nation's commercial and recreational fish harvest. The loss is the result of development, industrial pollution, and runoff from roads and farms and lawns. Around Smith Island in the Chesapeake Bay, fishermen have seen the effects. Here the islanders have made their living off one of the world's most productive estuaries for more than 350 years, and the community still depends for survival on the harvest of the bay. Journalist Tom Horton has returned to Smith Island to fish and to take care of the bay that he loves.
Now, you were saying that the only reason why these crabs exist is because of the grasses in the water.
Yeah, I mean, the reason Smith Island and the vicinity produces about 90% of the world's soft crabs, they ship them to Los Angeles, Japan, to New York City, is because the shallow waters grow a lot of grass, and the crabs crawl into this grass to shed their shells. That's why a lot of Chesapeake Bay is so productive.
But the grasses, the bay, and the fish are threatened, not only by nearby sources, but by thousands of activities that occur hundreds of miles away, in New York, in Pennsylvania, in Virginia. That's because the Chesapeake is basically one large system.
Just remember how special that was, and just to have that feeling again of knowing you put so much into something and you accomplish your goal. It's a very